So welcome, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you,
Uh,
Karen.
it's so good
Good
to
day.
have. Yeah, g'day, mate.
Good day. Good day.
We're going to talk about that actually. Jill, I'm so rapt to have you because for those listening, I will have had George Siegel on before, twice. George is, oh, I think twice actually. I don't know, but George does, the documentaries for houses that are not really built very well at all, and he's got a couple of other documentaries. He's a fabulous friend of mine in Tampa, in Florida. And I just recently had Lauren, his daughter, on, who got off the bench starting a podcast and was absolutely terrified about doing open mic nights. Playing guitar. So she did an open mic night that she was telling me about and actually achieved it and got off the bench. So Jill is actually the sister of George, and it's kind of like we're having this very, very family thing. And it's funny because this is about, I'll get to you in a minute, Jill, but I just want to remind my audience that this is why relationships are so important and why it matters to, build beautiful connections. And no matter whether they're all around the world or whether they're next door to you, you can maintain relationships. And this is how we move ahead as a better world if we can keep community with good people. So you never know who the next person around the corner is you might be introduced to. And if it wasn't for George, I would never have met Lauren and Jill. So just keep that in mind. And, you never know. You never know. And always be nice. We were talking about, sorry, Jill. Nikki and I were talking about that yesterday. We went to the tip and the guy there is just so lovely. And
What's the
someone
tip?
else, like a rubbish dump, and he's,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
The tip.
shout
Okay.
out to Greg. He's just wonderful. And, he's telling us that some people come in there and they're as rude as rude because he works at the tip. And we were just commenting how it's just so nice to be nice to people. Just bloody doesn't matter where they work. Everyone's a human and just like each other. Anyway, Jill, I just went on a bit of a tangent
I'm
about
doing a shout out too to Greg and to all the people that take care of us and our world. Thank
100%.
God yeah.
Can you imagine the world if we didn't have garbage collectors, if we didn't have people out at the tip, if we didn't have the waitresses, waiters, that service at tables? There's so many. One of my pet peeves I've got to tell you is people who are rude to people who they perceive to be less than because of their job, and that peeves the shit out of me. It's like every single human deserves respect. Unless you're a prick. And then
I'm with you. I'm with you, Karen.
that's good. Now, Jill, again, I've
And
gone on.
interestingly, well, just since we're kind of out there, so the curriculum, well, I'm going to let you do your thing, but there's a curriculum out there that advocates, that gives teachers the tools to teach respect for self and respect for others, starting in the very first grade, kindergarten here in the US,
Yeah,
up to 12th grade in the US. And we have in Australia cultural, it's called Overcoming Obstacles. And can you imagine if those mean, nasty people had
yeah.
learned their
A
life
hundred
skill of respect, the world would be a much better place.
100%. We are going to talk about your overcoming obstacles, and I can't wait to talk about. But I also agree because I wrote a kindness program, for schools because I just agree the same. Just role model it, But anyway,
Yeah.
we all have bad days. Jill, before we get to overcoming obstacles, I'm just gonna read your bio, and it's very quick, but I do want people to hear it. So I've got Jill Chalsty on the line call with me today. Jill has devoted her life to the transformative power of education. As the founder of Overcoming Obstacles, a non-profit she launched in 1992, long time ago, Jill pioneered life skills instruction that has now reached more than 180 million students in over 200 countries. Does have an Australian cultural translation. Can't wait to talk about that. Well, worldwide. Her memoir, Packets of Hope, is a powerful exploration of resilience, love, finding meaning and finding meaning through service. Since its launch in October 2025, it's consistently been one of the top downloads for Amazon free memoirs. Now, that sounds absolutely like great achievements, like, oh, she's written a book and of resilience. That's great. Pioneered an education curriculum and big, much bigger than I'm saying it. So we'll get into it in a minute. However, everybody knows that underneath great achievements or alongside great achievements, there's always something else sitting there. There's always something driving. And while Jill wasn't in a bad place necessarily when launching Overcoming Obstacles, perhaps that was the foundation for managing the grief that came later. So when grief did shatter her world in the in the 20, let's say this century, that'll do to start with. Jill boarded the Queen Anne, this was just this last year, boarded the Queen Anne on its maiden world voyage to find healing and purpose, not necessarily to run away from the grief, but to somehow find some meaning in the grief. So it's a very big journey, Jill, like from doing amazing things for people with your education and then suffering. And I won't say suffering like that everyone should give you sympathy because I know that's not what you're after, but it is suffering when things come left of field for us. And the first thing that, I'll say the first big thing that's been part of this journey is your husband, John, being diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2019. So tell us, and there's other things. You've had breast cancer, you've still got lung cancer, and your husband John has passed. So if you sort of combine those four things over 5 years and add COVID to that, it's very hard. It's very hard for people to find hope, and that's why we want to dig into your book. But tell us first about John being diagnosed with Alzheimer's and what that, like, how that just shattered. I'm not going to say your perfect world, but
Well,
just
what I'd like to do is I want to start back a bit. So
yep,
you talked about starting Overcoming Obstacles in 1992.
yep,
So I only started that because I had been bullied so horribly in middle school.
yep, yeah,
And the bully apologized to me at our 10-year high school reunion. And she
yeah,
was making the rounds at the reunion, apologizing to people as part of 12 stepping
yep,
um,
yep,
through Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. So that was her journey. And then my journey took off from that. So I didn't
mm,
start an organization and stay with it for decades because I was a happy go
yeah,
lucky
yep,
person. I think, and this is what you were leading to, Karen, is if we're going to get off the bench and do something significant, it's usually to alleviate pain,
mm,
either for ourselves or for other people.
yep,
I don't think you see a lot of really happy go lucky people
mm,
doing great things. And I
yep,
think that folks that are listening to this podcast of yours in general and today, to think about their own lives because
yep,
they're going through a lot and getting off the bench just means there's something bigger and better for them off that bench. And then
yep,
I didn't go to the Queen Anne um, having conquered grief. I went to
yep.
escape my grief.
Oh,
My home was filled with sorrow, John's battle with Alzheimer's, my battles with cancer, and losing your soulmate is difficult under any circumstance. And certainly for
mm,
me, losing my soulmate when I was going through the battle for my life,
yep,
the timing couldn't have been worse.
yep. Wow. I agree with you 100%. And this is going to surprise a lot of people, for me too. Most people call me always funny, always happy, energizer bunny, perfect life, that sort of stuff. And I've started a lot of things and have a lot of things on the go, and all of them have started through pain. And that's a journey I haven't shared yet. And I actually am writing in the background, writing a book that will really will surprise people about the grief that's sitting underneath there. So I agree with you, and I think that on the outside, or the umbrella thing, people say, "Wow, all these people that start great things, they must be in such a good place, to come up with this." But no, you're right. It's driven by pain. It is driven by pain.
Yeah. I would have quit years and years ago with overcoming obstacles
Mm,
because to start up a not for profit, as you know, and to sustain it is hugely
yep.
difficult.
Yep.
In the NGO world, the statistics are abysmal for those that succeed. So to stick with it, it had to be deeply personal.
Yep. I quit One Planet Classrooms in 2024
Mm.
because I couldn't sustain it anymore. And the guilt of that was just horrendous. The guilt of having to give up something, but you've got to look after yourself. You have to put yourself. So when John was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, what did that do to you? Like what did you was it just the biggest shock, or were you expecting it, or like how did you process that when it happened?
So everybody's journey and battle with Alzheimer's is different. Um, my husband was always the smartest person in a room. So
Mm.
his having and developing Alzheimer's went undetected
Yeah,
because his having Alzheimer's, he was still, leap years ahead of most people,
yeah,
including myself.
yeah.
Incredibly smart, lovely, beautiful human being. So when the diagnosis came, it just, I think, confirmed something that we thought was already going on. And John had mixed dementia, which is vascular dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's very difficult to treat two things together.
Mhm.
And he also had other health issues. He was in his 80s with this diagnosis. So there's other health complications if we're fortunate to make it into our
Mm.
70s,
Mm.
80s that come along with it.
Yeah. So that 4 years between that actual diagnosis and him passing, you in 2023, you also were battling breast cancer. Like, just before you get into that and your lung cancer, I'm interested in your thoughts, but you can share them after reflection. A lot of people say you get breast cancer from uh, stress related to nurturing. Do you know that it's like you're just wanting to nurture somebody, but you can't. There's something that's it's too much
Never heard
pain.
that.
Yeah,
What I
I
what I have heard, because I've been very involved, whether I wanted to or not, but to stay on top of John's care and my care, I did deep dives on research. I chaired the
mm,
Heart and Vascular Center
mm,
at the medical university in one of the communities we lived in. And what I have been told is cancer loves stress.
yeah,
So whatever your cancer is, that you get, look back at your own life, and I can guarantee it's a rare person who doesn't have stress, but
yeah,
you had a lot of stress in your life.
yeah,
And further, alcohol. They have now, the studies show alcohol consumption, there's a link to cancer.
mm,
Now, what specific cancer, I don't know. I don't think they've shown that.
mm,
But those are two big triggers. And in the caregiving world, which I
yeah,
was a full-time caregiver for my husband,
yeah,
the stress was extreme.
yeah,
He didn't want anyone else taking care of him, and I didn't trust anyone else.
mm,
We had some help, but it was maybe for me to go out for a walk for an hour.
mm,
But I never left his side. And then when I went in for my surgery, it was a double mastectomy. And I didn't have, and I'm going to use the word luxury to say, oh, I'm going to get reconstruction
mm,
because I needed to get home
yeah,
for the
yeah,
love of my life, who was worried about me and didn't really understand why I left and what was going on. He was just worried because for the first time in decades, I wasn't with him.
mm,
So It was 24 hours, removing my breasts, throwing a lunch sack. I was in a little closet at this hospital in Tampa. We were living there at the time and had a wonderful surgeon, but it was just a horrible process. And then we had somebody helping for about 3 weeks because you have drains coming out of
Yeah.
you and you're not allowed to lift. And
Mm.
my husband had about, I'm going to say 30 pounds on me. What am I? Yeah, he had a lot of weight.
Mm.
I'm now going to do the math very quickly. I'm sorry, 70 pounds. My
Mm.
husband weighed 70 pounds more than and I was lifting him and helping him. So it was the race for me to get back to taking care of John. And the day my brother George took me to surgery, picked me up, and took me to get those drains removed. And I came back, John saw no drains, and he knew, okay, Jill's back. She's going to now be helping me again 24/7. And I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I lost my sister from breast cancer too. So I get it. It's
I read about that. You didn't mention which cancer, but I read about that about you. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, it started. No, well, they don't really know she started with breast cancer, and we think that was the primary, but we're not sure. She ended up with multiple tumors in her brain, and it was a big deal. But I think breast cancer is probably the one where it actually started, and but also you had lung cancer, and I mean, talk about, I'm not a big one. I know people who take their birthdays off. I still work on my birthday, but still, your birthday's kind of like one of those days that has trigger memories. But you had part of your in surgery having part of your lung removed on your birthday, and
Yeah,
so
they
you're
didn't give
20.
me a choice. Yeah, that was like, and I'll say this, the breast cancer, because of that, they found the lung cancer.
Oh,
So if there's any silver lining
yeah,
to that stormy cloud,
yeah,
it was they found that. The bad news was, as a full-time caregiver, I stopped following my health. And
mm,
by the time I went to the appointment to have that follow-up, so I encourage everyone, get off that bench and
mm,
follow your health and take care of your health no matter what your circumstance. You need to have those regular checkups.
mm,
They saw that it had grown to stage 2B, and my choice was my birthday for the surgery. And I wasn't going to say, oh, let's wait. I
yeah,
said, okay, yes.
yeah, yeah.
And that was my journey. And my sister and brother came in after they took the top half of my left lung out and brought balloons and some food for me. And that was a
That was
birthday
a
to,
birthday to remember.
yeah, yeah. And I write about that in Packets of
Yeah,
Hope.
yeah, yeah. When you when they first found it, so you've still got lung cancer now and still sort of
So,
being
yeah,
treated.
incredibly. I must have had a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have two primary lung cancers,
Mm,
which they say is a rare thing. So they were able to remove the upper left lung with the larger tumor,
yeah.
but on the left side, had it been on the right, they could have taken the whole right lung out. But on the left side, your heart's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
If you take out the whole left lung, the heart can shift and you die. So
Bloody
they
hell.
left the
Wow.
lower left lung with that cancer, and that tumor is still stage 1. They wanted to radiate that tumor, and they wanted me to go on. I did chemo for the upper left, and that was just the worst of all of
Yeah.
my medical treatments was
Yeah.
chemotherapy. But the lower left is still there because sorry to keep going back
No,
to
it's all
your
right. Yeah.
podcast name, but it's so apt. I wanted to get off that bench.
Mm,
I wanted to escape the prison that my home had been for years of literally not going out without a mask,
mm,
really not going out at all. Never ate outside of our home. It was years, 5 years, just about. So when chemo was over and I could walk further than 1 block by
mm,
myself,
mm.
I took a trip that John and I had dreamt of taking together, a world journey, and really it was to escape the grief of my home and to try to heal. And
Mm.
my precious nephew, Jeremy Siegel, had given me a journal and some pens. I'd never journaled before. And he said, Aunt Jill, when you're on that trip, just, write down your feelings, get it out. And I was like, oh, I'll never do it. I'll never do it. I was so filled with grief and sadness when I got on Queen Anne in
Mm.
January of last year that I had nobody around me to talk to. I just pulled out Jeremy's journal and started to write. And my hand couldn't keep up with my brain. So I
Mm.
switched to my laptop. And that's where my memoir came out, and St. Bernard Press published it in October.
I love it.
I just
And
journaled. Yeah.
so let's go there then. You first, so you're going on the Queen Anne, but before you did that, your friend said to you, "Travel with purpose." It was your friend Sandy, which was fantastic. And then you decided, right, that's it. Well, I'm going to go. I'll book my trip on the Queen Anne. But you had another reason, like you decided, well, it's going to have a purpose. I'm not just going to go on a cruise and
Yeah.
visit the world and pretend I'm happy, or pretend I'm sad, or be sad, or burden other people, whatever it was. But you've said, right, I've got overcoming obstacles, and I'm going to pair them up, and I'm going to heal, and I'm going to do this trip with purpose. So go back to overcoming obstacles for a minute, because that's what the Packets of Hope. The title of the book is Packets of. Oh my God, is it Packets of Hope or pack? Yeah, for a minute I thought it was packages. Yes,
Okay.
packets of hope. Yeah,
Visual,
show us the book.
visual,
Yeah.
visual aid.
Now that is the Jill's, just for the audio people. Jill is showing the soft cover book. You can also go to the website packetsofhope.com and download a free PDF if you want to, or you can pay for the book and support Jill. But before
It
we
doesn't support me. Flag on the field. It's at cost. So I don't ask for anything. It's just to pay for the printing and the
Fantastic.
shipping. But the
Okay.
whole book is free as a PDF. It's free in the Kindle free store. Yes.
That's beautiful. It's actually as I read out before, one of the top downloads for Amazon free memoirs. That's what the book itself, which we will talk about because I want to know about some bits in there, is documenting the journey day by day and the learnings and all that kind of the beautiful people that you meet. But the Packets of Hope itself is about taking information about overcoming obstacles to all these ports around the world. But before we do that, tell us about overcoming obstacles, like what it actually does. What I know why you started it, but are you still? What are you now? Do you still run it? You're an ambassador, but does that mean you're still hands on, and did you create the curriculum? Like, tell us all about that stuff.
Okay, I'll just say that Vinnie Capone, as I write in the book, a man young enough to be my son,
Yeah,
but wise enough to lead a global publishing organization, runs Overcoming
yeah,
Obstacles. I serve as chair of the board. I'm a life skills ambassador, and our hope was with the publication of this memoir, which, up until publication day, I was no, 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 I can't do it.
yeah,
I don't want to share these deep personal things with the world.
yeah.
But it is such a wonderful vehicle to let the world know the
Mm,
power of a life skills education. So,
yeah.
my friend Sandy, who said travel with purpose, she knew my purpose because she's on the board as well of
Yeah.
overcoming obstacles. My purpose is to bring life skills education into the classrooms of this world. So, we wouldn't expect parents to teach math, science, English, history at home. So our feeling is you can't expect parents to teach communication, decision making, goal setting, conflict resolution, the skills for success on the job. You can certainly try to model them, but there's formal processes involved in the learning of these skills.
Mm,
And that's what this curriculum is. And back in 1992 through 2000, we had a team of professional curriculum writers work with our advisory board in
mm,
creating this. And now it's award winning, research based, and taught in hundreds of thousands of classrooms
Mm,
in close to 200 countries. And when I went into a port, I could barely make it up steps in the beginning of this journey, but I was so determined. And this is what helped me heal, is to meet these educators in these ministries of education and in these schools in every port. And I'd show up like a puppy dog with a big, I shared with you, Karen, these
mm,
photos, big smile on my
yeah.
face. Here's my packet. And inside this packet was information about this free life skills curriculum. It's enough content for every day of a child's school experience.
Wow.
And because of this, entire nations now are teaching life skills to
Mm,
their students.
mm,
It was a successful journey for me personally and for the profession that I've chosen, curriculum publishing. And again, everything's free. So
mm,
what I found is, the question was, who wouldn't want a free life skills
mm,
curriculum? And the answer was, everybody wants it.
mm. Did you have a background in education when you were working? But
I did. I'd
well, I
always
don't mean
been.
that. I don't mean that. I don't mean that you're not working now. But you know what I mean. As a
Yeah,
career,
yeah,
was
yeah,
it a?
yeah. No, that was my background. I studied philosophy at UCLA, and while I was there, I was a life skills teacher. It wasn't a formal name, life skills then.
Yeah,
Nobody knew about life skills
yeah.
back then, but I was teaching communication skills and goal setting and decision making and study skills at UCLA through the engineering department, and to freshmen and sophomores, and that was a focus on decision making. And then my the athletic department hired me to help the redshirt freshman football team, football players,
Mm,
develop the skills to stay in school and thrive.
wow. I know a few people who will be interested in that, so I'm gonna make sure I pass that on to them. So,
Well,
I-
and my two of these best friends out of Brisbane, the Tross, they developed the Australian
I
cultural
was
translation.
just
And
about to ask you about that. How does that look?
wow,
We don't
you
get to
tell
be.
me, Karen, you got to go. You know education. People have told us it's fabulous, and these two educators are tremendous. They are beautiful people inside and out. They're devoted teachers,
Yeah,
and they made it was a labor of love to take our American US version and make it appropriate. So it was word changes,
yeah,
some nuances,
yeah,
but it makes the difference for your country.
yeah.
And then we went to 5 different ports in Australia, and the packets that went out, some of the ministers of education were very responsive, and they said,
Mm,
"Here's a link. Can you send an email to all of our school principals and let them directly know about the life skills curricula
mm,
available?" So
mm.
that was huge. And your rivals, but also a beautiful relationship, New Zealand.
Yeah,
If I could just do a shout out to for their
yeah.
minister of education, she has set bullying prevention as her,
Fantastic.
main focus.
Yep.
And somebody on her team, or she herself, because the email back to me after they reviewed their letter and the packet was, we're all in. Here's a link. And they gave us specifically, I think it was 412 school principals, and they wanted me to contact them directly. And
Wow.
we did.
Wow.
Vinny and I made sure that every school principal was
Wow.
contacted.
So when you went to the I'd love to get hold of the Australian one because I
You
reckon
can do it now while we're recording. You can go right to your computer, go to overcomingobstacles.org, and then in the library, the upper right corner, it
I'm
says
writing it down
enter
right now.
library.
Yeah.
So overcomingobstacles.org,
Yep.
upper right corner,
Yep.
you hit enter library.
Yep.
It's all there.
Okay.
It'll
A
blow you
beauty.
away. And it'll
Well, I
blow your
hope
listeners
I
away.
hope people listening, go and do this too. I'm not going to do it while I'm on Zoom because I don't trust my computer. But
Okay.
yeah, but I'm going to do it later. But if you are in education, please go and have a look at that. But and if you're not in Australia, just get whatever suits you. But how
And
good.
Yeah, and it's translated the activity sheets into 30 languages.
Wow. Yeah.
And the website itself is in Spanish, French, and English. But I want to say, even if you're not an educator and you're looking for a reason to get off the bench,
Mm,
you can go to that website and let your local schools tell your
yeah.
school principals, hey,
Yeah.
here's this free award-winning research-based curriculum. We
Mm.
need it in our schools.
Absolutely. And that has happened with my kindness program. Parents have gone to the principal and
Well,
said, I want to do this. So if you're a parent listening or you're an auntie or you're just passionate about education, but not just education, about kids actually learning the skills where they're not going to bully others, and where they grow up to be functional adults rather than dysfunctional adults. It's a lot of the time they're just not learning life skills. They're not learning how to communicate with each other.
in Packets of Hope, I write about the nurse that kept me from becoming an opioid addict.
Mm,
She had had overcoming obstacles when she was in middle school.
mm,
And, there's just an example of it. It's just young people learning life skills when they're young. It's going to help us in different ways when people are good decision makers and communicators. She
yep.
saw me in pain, unlike the five, six, seven, eight other people that have been in my room for 3 days,
Mm,
ignoring me, just looking at charts. She said, let me take a look at your bandage. She loosened the bandage. She said, let me put a pillow behind your back. She put a pillow behind my back. I was pain free because of her good life skills. And then we
wow.
talked, and then I learned she had learned life skills in school. And when I said, do you think it helped you? She said, it's what got me here.
Yeah,
And she had
wow.
been, yeah, at the top nursing school,
Mm,
NYU, and then one of the top cancer hospitals. So there's an
wow.
example of in our daily life,
Yeah. Yep.
young people learning life skills helps all of
And
us.
we need exactly, we all need it. Exactly. Wow. So I'm really interested when you're on the Queen. Okay, let's say you get on the Queen and you're struck with grief. You're absolutely sad that you can barely get up steps. You can barely talk. You don't want to talk to anyone. It's just, or you probably do want to talk to anyone, but you don't know anyone. And you've got this mission, to deliver these envelopes. I've been there myself, not in the exact same situation where I know I've got a job to do. I want to do it, but I'm so overwhelmed with some sadness, grief, pain, that I just think, nah, I can't be bothered. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to, what made you go, I have to do it despite the pain? I have
Okay,
to get this.
great question. So for me, it was a determination that I had to walk the walk of life
Mm,
skills, to talk the talk. So here I am for decades
mm,
helping kids learn life skills. I'm determined to have good life skills in my daily life. So the key ones for me were baby steps.
mm,
I write about baby steps. My
yeah,
friend Jean
yeah,
taking me outside the home for my first meal. So it wasn't like I got off the bench and started to hit home runs. So it
mm,
was, I went to the dining room. I was
yeah,
hungry. I said, I'm not going to eat in my room again, in
yeah,
my cabin. So it
yeah,
was a baby step going there.
mm,
It was the baby step of engaging in conversation after weeks with the
mm,
people sitting next to me.
mm,
So those baby steps grew for me. So the desire to try to live good life skills, but also I surrounded myself with positive people and I didn't want
mm,
to, that's another life skill
yeah,
that the kids learn. I didn't want to let them down. So I had Vinny, I had our board, I had my nephew Jeremy, I had, my family and friends all rooting for me to
mm,
deliver these packets to get, gain some weight and have a better life when I got off that ship. But I will say, most of all, it was the greatest good fortune of my life was the unconditional love of another human being. And that was my soulmate, my husband. And I felt his presence with me
mm,
every step of the way. He was not a quitter. And I knew that he would want me to move forward with my life and to do the work that meant so much to both of us.
mm. Wow. So. when you, well, I have another question that is similar. Logistics. It's one thing to have the motivation, to actually drive yourself to get off there, get off that ship, get into port, find that person. The logistical effort of lining up people and lining up, like you went to, was it 26 ports? Was it 26? How do you, to me, that's a really big thing, is to find out, right, I'm going to all these ports. This is while you're grief stricken. It's not easy to have a, a good brain, that's actually cognitively working well when you're so grief stricken. But to plan, well, I'm going to these 26 ports, and the Ministry of Education is at this address, because you've still got to get there. You've got to get off the ship. You've got to get to and it's not always near the port. Those sort of things. How did you pre-organize with people saying on this date I'm coming? I'd like to hand you something, or did you wing it? Did you just show up at the offices and say, "Hey, I've got something"? How did you do that?
So all of the pre-planning meant nothing when I arrived in port. Quite often, the name that was the Minister of Education that had changed, even in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, yeah,
The person's name, yeah, the position had been filled by somebody else,
yeah,
or the office closed.
yeah,
I'll just use Sydney as an example.
yeah.
I was 100% sure, so were my friends who met me there from Australia, that we had the address. And there's a whole crazy escapade that goes on because I had a dental emergency, and that I had to get to a dentist, and the ship was late. And then I finally got with these friends to the building, this gorgeous building, and there was no entrance.
Wow,
It was an old address that when you Googled the Ministry of Education in Sydney, the Department of Education, this building showed up. And it turns out, as the clock was ticking for me, the
mm,
day was ending on a Friday, the ministry was somewhere else.
wow,
So I had to take that packet and put that one in the mail and just hope
mm,
that it would end up in the right hands. And some of
mm.
those packets did have to ultimately get in the mail, and all of them were received. And that was a big gift that people gave us. I think it was Guatemala, this whole chain. It took months to hear back from them.
Yep.
But when I did, the email chain was quite extensive with all the hands and the evaluation that went through
Wow,
vetting me and overcoming obstacles to the very end. The top of that email chain was approved.
wow, wow. So, oh my God.
And I want to just give one other example. In
Yeah.
Tonga, it was again a comedy of errors. I had a driver guide lined up, Luca, and God bless him for being resilient. He would not say no when I said, okay. It was ungodly hot in Tonga when we arrived. He wouldn't say no. I said, come on, I'll put it in the mail. He said, no, no, no. We found Mr. Oko's office. I had my first handshake in years. Mr.
Wow,
Oko was
wow,
bigger than life. And in that meeting, he said he was just talking to the heads of curriculum in his country and the discussion was we need to have life skills curriculum.
wow.
And then they asked us to translate the activity sheets into Tongan, which we did immediately. So that's a beautiful, happy story. And really, it was all about you care so much, you don't give up, or you have people around you who don't let you give up.
I
Thank
was,
you, Luca.
and you mentioned Tonga. Yeah, that's one of the places that you mentioned, as in, for example, the spiritual connection in Tonga. What I was just about to say that before. One, I was about to say, tell us about Tonga, but before that, I was about to say, you're talking about Sydney, and your friends meeting you in Sydney, and it's exactly how we open this conversation with having relationships, and surrounding yourself with positive people, the right people, people who want to see you succeed. People who are always cheering you on, and the best friends are the ones that you can ring up. You might not have even talked to them for 2 years, and you ring up, "Hey, I'm going to be in Sydney, and I'd really like your help," and they say, "Yeah, no worries," and they're not saying, "No, screw you. You didn't. You have been 2 years since you've spoken." I know people like that, and no, I'm not friends with people like that, because it's just like I want to be friends with people that I haven't seen for 10 years, and we can just pick up where we left off. And this is such an important thing. So, so I love all of that. When I got, how do as you were going, so the trip was 107 days, or, it was, I think, 107. You started off, you got on there grief stricken, you could barely make it up the stairs, but then you get to your first one, you deliver it, you deliver a second one, and some you got to post. But let's say you're about a third of the way in. How is your psyche changing? How is your spiritual levels? Your feeling of hope, and your the levels of sadness and grief. Is it starting to lift because of the purpose that you're really giving out to the world, and to yourself?
So it was almost 4 months, and I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
No. And going home after that journey was incredibly difficult because I had
Mm,
to walk through doors.
mm,
And I write about that experience, that it was just all of the grief, the darkness, the
mm,
shadows that I was coming home to. My
mm.
husband's
Yep.
dying, my battle with cancer and with chemo, and I was walking in these doors. But what I realized when I got home was that grief and that darkness was mine to shape. I felt in control for the
Mm,
first time in years. So that was the moment where things shifted for me.
mm,
That journey was exhausting.
mm.
Um, and I didn't know really, I'd heard from a few, Vinny and I had heard from a few of the ministers of education, but most of the response came after I got home. So I wasn't really aware of the
Yeah.
success
Yeah.
at the time. And then I was writing this journal and sharing it with my sister. Got on the ship in San Francisco. I learned so much from her about how to socialize. Like,
Mm,
again, a deep bench, people on your team.
yeah.
I had friends in Australia when other friends here were going to sleep on the east coast of the US. Friends in Australia were picking me up and cheering me on. And then my sister on the ship was showing me the way and how to socialize. But it wasn't until I walked back through my door that I realized the wheel was in my hands. I
Mm,
could I could
mm.
make a difference for myself now.
So were you then, if it didn't make any difference, did how many times did you question, why did I do this? Why am I on this journey? How often did that go through your mind?
Almost every port. It
Yeah.
was just I when you lose half your lung, and I also have congenital emphysema.
Mm.
So
Oh
I was
God.
never a smoker.
Mm.
And it's just heat is not my friend.
Yeah.
So everywhere we were going in your part of the world in the winter in North America, it was really difficult for me to make it through
Mm.
the days.
Yeah.
And then not being able to find the ministers of education, or if I walked into the Department of Education in the US, I wouldn't get very far.
Mm.
So the naivete to think that I could walk in Singapore with a
Mm.
packet.
Yeah.
They thought I was, they don't know. I was bomb sniffed and examined 5 times in KwaZulu Natal. No, it was in Cape Town. Um, yeah, that was the province. So it was in Cape Town. I had to go through more security there than in many countries combined.
Mm.
So it was so difficult. And then I had to wait for hours for somebody to come down to get this free life-changing gift. But I tried not to take any of it personally. And I just tried to have a good attitude, and I was grateful for every smiling face and lovely person that came my way. And I had so many of those. In Samoa, the Minister of Education wasn't there, but his assistant was. And she sat down and asked about overcoming obstacles, the reason for starting it, and then about my journey. And then at the end of this half-hour meeting said, "Do you still have cancer?" And I said, "Yes." And then she and her assistant prayed over me. I
Oh,
hadn't hugged
wow.
anybody,
Wow.
and I let these strangers hug me and pray. I wept like a baby, and I loved what they did for me. It was just such a huge blessing for me in my life. So things like that picked me up.
Mm,
Those things enriched my soul. And that was what I needed to keep going forward.
yeah. And at the end of the 107 days, and you're still battling, you still haven't changed. You know, you gave out all the envelopes, but you're still thinking, God, I've got to go home. Gary, your taxi driver, was there to meet you with two
Yeah.
dozen pink roses.
Oh, my
And
friend, my friend in taxi. He owns his own taxi. Yes. Yes.
he met you as you came off the ship.
Oh, it was
What was that
gorgeous.
like?
It was phenomenal. And again, not having physical contact for years, we gave each other just the biggest bear hug, and I just wept. And this young man's on his shoulder. It was beautiful. And I know him, I know his wife. I feel like I know the kids because I've heard the stories. So this is somebody who, is it's a very personal person to pick me up at the Brooklyn terminal,
Yeah.
Pier 12, as I get off this massive. And by the way, Queen Anne made it to Southampton, and then in Southampton, I had to get on the Queen Mary 2 to come back to Brooklyn. And what I write about is on the Queen Anne, I met two Australians from Melbourne traveling the world,
Mm.
Lachlan and Isabel Murray. And
Yeah.
then on the Queen Mary 2, I met a German couple. They were traveling just across the Atlantic to the US. Both couples gave me an invitation if I went to the UK. The Murrays said, "We will take you around. We'll be traveling there over the summer. Let's do Packets of Hope." And the German couple said, "Come to Germany and we'll do Packets of Hope throughout our country." And that is how I spent my summer. So I
Oh,
came home at the
yeah.
beginning of May,
Yep.
regrouped, wrote up letters for dozens more packets, assembled the packets, and got on an airplane and went off and met these lovely people, the Murrays, and traveled the UK and Ireland and delivered packets, and then flew to
Wow.
Germany and
Wow.
traveled Germany. It was phenomenal,
Wow.
phenomenal experience.
Wow. And these are people that you'd never met before, just met them on
No.
the and you went on to the cruise closed. You know, I don't want to talk to people. I can't talk to people. But something,
Yeah.
this is a lot of
I learned how to live again. I learned how to
yeah.
live again. That was it.
But
I
even
got
so,
off the men.
yeah, but even so, there's a lot of people who wouldn't just sink into the trust of a stranger. Like that's
Oh, well, let me just
takes a
say,
lot.
Karen, so my brother and sister thought I was nuts. My sister had met the Murrays and knew they were great people. We had
Yeah,
traveled with them for a month.
yeah.
But, having meals for a week with the couple from Germany and then traveling in Germany, stayed in their house. I'm writing about that. There's a follow-up book to Packets of Hope, A Journey of Healing and Rediscovery. This second book, it's not all puppies and kittens. Let me just tell you, it was crazy. It was crazy. And
Can't
I'm
wait to
writing
read
about
it.
it.
Now listen,
Oh,
I've only read the first three chapters and the last one because I only got this book last week. I only got introduced to Jill last week by George. So I am dying to read the rest of the book. But I tell you what, even just the first three chapters, I was hooked, and I knew I had to go outside and do something with the donkeys. And I'm like, Oh, damn it. I just want to keep reading. And I haven't had another chance since over the weekend, but I was hooked. If you guys have got to you got to get the book and you got to download it and read it because it's fabulous. When you look back over the that hundred and well, let's just go the cruise first. Um, Yeah, we'll do what's your greatest learning? Like when you, because when you said you didn't, it didn't heal your pain. You came back through the doors. You were still like, oh my God, I don't want to be here, but now at least I've got the steering wheel, that kind of thing. When you look back over that, like now with a different lens because you've taken the steering wheel, when you look back over that cruise, what did you learn the most? What really stood out to you?
That life skills education is vital for every child in every school across our planet. There
Mm,
wasn't a community that I visited, a person that I spoke with
mm,
that didn't say, yes, we need to teach our children how to communicate better,
mm.
make better decisions, and set meaningful goals. So
Wow.
that was for me, like I expected it. Like I knew what it had done in the US and from a distance, because people are downloading our curriculum from all over the planet. I haven't met them.
Mm,
I've met people here in the US, but I hadn't globally to travel and speak with people. It just lit a fire inside of me. I didn't double down on my
mm,
purpose and on my life. I triple, quadruple down.
mm,
And I now get up every morning knowing that there are people that we need to reach, people that we can reach if I do my job and do my work. And that means getting packets of hope out there because it does such a powerful job explaining why life skills are important,
mm,
but overcoming obstacles, getting that into people's communities. So I think that
mm.
was the most important thing I learned.
And what about your grief levels now? Like, you've been home since May, but then you did that extra, travel.
Yeah.
But let's say the last 6 months, you've been in your home. Um, you've had to walk through those doors, feel the grief, take the ship by the bull by the horns, the steering wheel, whatever. How is it now that you feel like you've got some control back and you feel like there's purpose again and or well, not that it left, but you feel like you can control that a bit better?
Oh, it had left. I had to find it again, but I hope it's the same for you with the loss of your sister and anyone else that's listening. Um, I feel my husband with me.
Mm,
And instead of
yep,
being angry
yep.
at him for leaving or at this world for taking him from me,
Mm,
I now embrace that love. I feel him with me every step I take. I know the things I did on this trip I couldn't have done alone. And I don't
mm,
want to take credit away from myself, but I had this like extra
mm,
energy and, his personality is very different from my own. And I felt like I was being more like him than myself because he would push
mm,
himself to do things and he was very outgoing and I'm not, but I felt myself being outgoing and I felt that energy of his love propelling me
mm,
forward. So the grief is still here. I'd say instead of crying twice a day or, during that first year, and then the next year was once a day. Now it's a few times a week, but I talk to my husband all the time and he talks back.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, that
yeah.
doesn't sound strange to me at all. I do the same, and it's that presence, and that present. If anyone's lost anyone and they're open to it, you feel that presence.
Oh,
When you're ready to feel it, you feel it. I was listening to I can't think of the name of her podcast, but Julia Louis Dreyfus, who played Elaine in Seinfeld, and she talked about in well, she talks about in several of the episodes, but one episode in particular, she talked about her losing her dad and the grief around that, and then someone said to her that you've got to look at it as a different relationship. The relationship you had before was that he was there and, in person and you were talking to him. But now the relationship is different. He's just invisible to you, but he's still there and you can still talk. And it tears me up every time I think about it. But, and she was full of tears while she was explaining it on the podcast. But I think about it and I just think that's it. That has really stuck with me. The way she explained that, and I think it helps to heal. If we can imagine or if we can accept a different relationship, just a different type. They're still there. It's just
And we have to live for them and ourselves. I
we do.
recognize that our loved ones wouldn't want us to give up and
No,
give in.
no.
They want us in the game. They want us living our best, fullest life.
Do you know that I'm telling you before about this book that I'm writing in the background, and I'm doing another one will come out before that one, but that's what you said. I use Otter. It's a voice to memo, voice to text kind of thing. Anyway, I use that all the time, and that's exactly what I recorded last
Oh,
week.
wow.
That exact thing is that because I'm trying to I'm figuring out this process of well, wait a minute, they wouldn't want that, all the no one wants that. So it's making me teary just thinking about it. But it's they want you to be happy. They want you to um find your joy. So look at me now, I'm a blubbering mess. Thanks, Jill.
Sorry, Karen. Let it out.
No, I don't
Let it
mind.
out.
I sook all the time. I'm sure I'm the world's biggest sook, but it's great. But that's exactly what I was talking about, last week. And I think we 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 forget that, we get filled with guilt and self-blame and, and the grief and we forget that there's nothing we can do to bring them back, and they would not want us to be suffering. And so how do we use their energy? How do we use their presence and embrace their presence and celebrate their presence, and enjoy it, so that we can have a much better life, so that then we can fulfill things that would make them happy. They would say, great, good on you. That's fantastic. I love that you're doing that. Get off your ass, get off the bench, stop sooking, stop being get up, get off. Go do that thing that you were born to do. Come on. I'm here cheering you on. Go do it. So I think we forget about that side of it far too much, so yeah, Jill,
My friends in Australia say happy as Larry.
yeah. Is that in the translation, in the cultural translation?
No, it's in mine. I
Yeah.
just love the expressions. Happy as Larry.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the Australian one. I'm gonna download it and have a look at it. But Nikki and I, my partner, we often look at memes only in Australia. And it talks about the way we speak. And we forget that we have this cultural language, that is very
It's
different.
fabulous. Great.
How far? Not far. When will we be there soon? Is it that sort of stuff? It's a six stubby trip, that sort of stuff.
I
And we
haven't
think,
heard that one. Write that book. Write that book. I love it.
yeah. It's I remember, yeah, I've got a good friend, Christine, in Tampa that I done some stuff with her quite often with the University South Florida. And she would always, when I'd stay with her, she'd say, now, I think you'll have to explain that one. What does that mean exactly? Because I'd be just saying, oh, that's a bloody ripper. Oh, now you'll have to explain that one. What's a bloody ripper? And I'd say, like, great, it's fantastic. Oh, okay. So a ripper is fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
I love it. Jill, I have well, I was gonna say I love it. I just want to ask you one more question. What now? You're writing the next book, and
Yes.
that's taking up enough time.
So between trying to get the word out on the first book
Yeah,
and then being a good chairman and
yeah,
partner for Vinny at Overcoming Obstacles as a good board member,
yeah,
and then writing this second book,
yeah.
then our my family and friends. Yeah, I have a long day every day, and I look forward to it.
And looking after yourself. Well, let's add that to the list.
I have learned the importance of that, having neglected it. Absolutely. All my appointments now are in my calendar. I honor them. The
Mm,
deal was until, or if, I should say, if the cancer goes to stage 2 in the lower left lung, I just continue to live life.
mm.
But I get CAT scans every 4 or 5 months, and that's how we'll monitor it. And when I came back from the Queen Anne journey, my doctors had looked at the CT scan. They saw that the condition was stable and nothing else had developed from the breast cancer or the lung removed, that cancer.
Mm.
And the doctor, I quote, whatever you're doing, keep it up.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Jill, I have loved this conversation. I am so grateful to George for introducing us. And, you're just you got such a beautiful heart and soul. And, you don't deserve that level of suffering, but it's not a sympathy vote. It's just, the good people in this world, seem to really, I don't know, seem to be a magnet for adversity and obstacles. But you're you're like a warm hug. You've got this beautiful sunshine coming out of you. I really appreciate people like you in this world. So thank you for
We
everything.
appreciate you. Same,
Thank
same
you.
to you, Karen. Thank you for the wonderful service you provide all of us with everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Received. Thank you with gratitude. Thank you, Jill. Jill, where can people find you?
Best place would be packetsofhope.com.
Yeah,
And then if they want to reach me directly, Jill@packetsofhope.com.
yeah,
I hope that my book gives people inspiration.
yeah,
And if anyone would like to learn more about life skills education, they should go to overcomingobstacles.org
yeah,
or oolifeskills.org.
yeah.
And they can be advocates for life skills education in their own classrooms or in their communities.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put those on in the
You.
show notes so people can, can connect and
Terrific.
hopefully download the book. Hopefully, go and download some curriculum. And Jill, you're an absolute blessing to this world. So, thank you so, so, so much for joining me today.
Thank you. All best wishes to you.
Thank you, and we better stay in touch.
I hope so.
Yes, we will. All right. Thank you so much, Jill, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thank you. Ta-da.